The blood had not yet dried when Brother William arrived at the chapel. It was the year of our Lord 1291, and the Holy Land was dying. Acre had fallen 3 months prior, the last great fortress of Christendom in the east, swallowed by Mamluk armies like a candle snuffed between wet fingers. The Templars who survived that massacre had scattered across the known world, carrying with them secrets that kings would kill to possess and the church would burn to suppress. William was not supposed to be in Acre. He was supposed to be dead. The chapel stood at the edge of what had once been the Templar quarter, a small stone structure that had somehow survived the siege when grander buildings around it had been reduced to ash and memory. Its door hung open, broken hinges testament to violence recent and deliberate. Inside, 3 bodies lay in positions that suggested they had died badly. William recognized them. Brothers of his order, men he had trained with, prayed with, bled alongside in a dozen forgotten skirmishes across this cursed land. Their white surcoats were stained crimson, the red crosses over their hearts obscured by darker red that had poured from throats cut with professional precision. This was not the work of Saracens. This was murder by Christian hands. He knelt beside the first body, that of Brother Thomas, a man 20 years his senior, who had taught him how to hold a sword when William was barely old enough to lift one. Thomas's eyes were still open, frozen in an expression of betrayal so profound it hurt to witness. His right hand clutched something, fingers locked in rigor mortis around an object William had to pry loose with effort that felt like sacrilege. A key, iron, ancient, marked with symbols that predated the Templars by centuries, symbols William had seen only once before, in a manuscript the Grand Master kept locked away in a vault beneath the fortress at Acre. A manuscript that was supposed to have burned when the fortress fell. Apparently it had not. William pocketed the key and moved to the second body. Brother Marcus, younger than William by 5 years, a scholar who could read 7 languages and had spent his service to the order not in battle, but in the archives, translating texts from Arabic, Hebrew, ancient Greek. His throat bore the same efficient wound as Thomas, but his death had been slower. There were defensive wounds on his hands, ink still staining his fingers from whatever work he had been doing when his killers arrived. Beside him lay scattered pages, hastily torn from a bound volume. William gathered them carefully, squinting at text written in a mixture of Latin and something older, something that made his head ache to look at directly. The words seemed to writhe on the parchment, resistant to comprehension. He could make out only fragments, references to a door, to a threshold, to something called the vessel, and a repeated phrase that appeared in every language on every page, as if the author wanted to ensure no reader could mistake its importance. The third temple must never be built. William's blood ran cold. Every Templar knew the stories. The first temple, Solomon's masterwork, destroyed by Babylon. The second temple, rebuilt and sanctified, destroyed by Rome. And the third temple, the one prophesied to herald the end of days, the one that certain factions within the church and beyond had been secretly working to construct for generations. The Templars had sworn oaths to prevent that construction, had died by the thousands to keep certain knowledge buried, certain relics hidden, certain powers from gathering the pieces they would need to make the prophecy reality. That was the true purpose of the order, the secret beneath the secret. Not to retake Jerusalem for Christendom, but to ensure that Jerusalem never became what certain forces wished it to become. The third body was Brother Andrew, and his death made William's hands shake with rage he had not known he could still feel. Andrew had been young, barely 18, bright-eyed and faithful in a way that war had not yet managed to corrupt. He had believed every word of every sermon, had prayed with genuine conviction, had thought the Templars were truly God's warriors, rather than jailers guarding a prison most of humanity did not know existed. He had died with a prayer on his lips. William could see it in the way his mouth was frozen open, could almost hear the words that had failed to save him. The chapel had been ransacked, the altar overturned, the crucifix torn from the wall, the floor torn up in places where someone had been searching for something hidden beneath the stones. They had not found it. William knew this because he knew what they had been searching for, and he knew where it actually was, not beneath the chapel floor, beneath the chapel itself. He moved to the corner where Brother Thomas had fallen, pressed his hand against a stone that looked no different from any other stone in the wall, and spoke 3 words in a language he did not understand but had memorized phonetically as part of his initiation into the inner circle of the order. The stone moved. Behind it, a passage descended into darkness. William took a torch from the wall, lit it with flint and steel, and descended into the earth. The passage was narrow, ancient, carved not by Templar hands, but by builders far older. Jerusalem had been holy ground for 3,000 years before Christ walked its streets. Layer upon layer of sanctity and sin, of prayers and blood, of temples built and torn down and built again. The Templars had discovered this passage 50 years ago, had kept it secret even from most of their own members, had posted guards here in rotation to ensure that what lay below was never disturbed. Those guards were dead now. William had found their bodies outside the chapel, killed with the same professional efficiency as the brothers inside. The passage opened into a chamber that should not exist. It was too large for one thing, too well preserved for something this ancient. The walls were covered in writing, languages layered over languages, civilizations leaving their marks across millennia. Hebrew prayers overlaid Egyptian hieroglyphs, Latin inscriptions carved over Greek, and beneath all of it, just visible in the torchlight, something older still. Symbols that hurt to look at, that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles, that suggested meanings too vast for human minds to hold comfortably. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, and upon the pedestal rested a box. It was not large, perhaps the size of a human head, carved from stone that William could not identify, black and smooth and utterly lightless. It seemed to absorb the torchlight rather than reflect it, creating a bubble of darkness that pressed against William's eyes like a physical weight. He had been in this chamber 3 times before, twice during his training, when the Grand Master himself had brought him here and explained in hushed tones what the box contained and why the Order existed to guard it. Once after the fall of Acre, when he had come alone to verify that it remained undisturbed while the world burned above. The box had no visible seams, no lock, no mechanism for opening. It was simply a solid piece of stone shaped to suggest containment, and yet William knew, the way every keeper before him had known, that something was inside. Something that whispered, something that waited, something that had been waiting for 3,000 years and would wait 3,000 more if necessary. The key in his pocket grew warm. William pulled it out, stared at it in the torchlight, and understood with terrible certainty what Brother Thomas had been trying to tell him with his dying gesture. The key was not meant to open the box. The key was meant to move it, to transport it, to remove it from this chamber before those who had killed his brothers returned with greater numbers and less restraint. The order was broken. Acre had fallen. The Grand Master was dead. The network of fortresses and safe houses that had protected Templar secrets for 2 centuries was collapsing. If the box remained here, it would be found. And if it was found, if those who sought it managed to open it, if they used what was inside for the purposes William suspected they intended, then the prophecy would be fulfilled. The 3rd temple would be built, and the world would discover that the end of days was not metaphor. He approached the pedestal slowly, reverently, the way one might approach a sleeping dragon. His hands shook as he reached for the box. The moment his fingers touched the stone, sound filled the chamber. Not loud, but pervasive. A humming that seemed to resonate in his bones, in his teeth, in the base of his skull. And beneath the humming, just at the edge of hearing, voices. They spoke in languages William did not know, had never heard, would never be able to learn. They spoke of doors and thresholds, of barriers meant to hold and seals meant to bind, of choices made by men who thought themselves gods, and gods who had once been men, of a temple built, and a temple destroyed, and a temple that must never be, because what would be built in its place was not a temple at all, but a doorway. And what would come through that doorway was not divine. William lifted the box. It was heavier than stone should be, heavy with a weight that was not quite physical, as if it contained not just matter, but gravity itself. He placed it carefully into the pack he had brought, wrapping it in cloth blessed by priests who had never known what they were blessing. Behind him, in the darkness of the passage, footsteps echoed. They had found him. William drew his sword, old reflexes overwhelming fear, the muscle memory of 100 battles taking control. The blade was Templar steel, folded and refolded until it held an edge that could split silk dropped upon it. He had killed 17 men with this sword. Saracen's bandits, once a fellow Christian who had tried to desecrate a holy site for profit. He had never enjoyed killing, but he had never hesitated either. That was what it meant to be a Templar. To do what was necessary without the luxury of doubt. The footsteps grew closer, multiple sets, at least 4, moving with the coordination of trained soldiers. They would be armed, armored, prepared for resistance. They would know what he carried. They would do anything to take it from him. William looked at the box in his pack, at the chamber around him, at the single narrow passage that represented his only exit. Basic mathematics suggested he would not survive this. 4 against 1 in a confined space with no retreat possible. He might kill 2, perhaps 3 if fortune favored him, but the 4th would get through, would take the box, would deliver it to whoever had ordered this massacre, unless there was another way out. The writing on the walls. William had studied it during his previous visits, had noted patterns that suggested more than decoration. The ancient builders of this chamber had been clever, had understood that what they guarded might need to be moved quickly, might need to be protected by methods more sophisticated than simple stone and iron. His eyes scanned the symbols, searching for the sequence the Grand Master had shown him, the one meant to be used only in the direst emergency. There, near the back wall, a series of marks that formed a pattern, a key hidden in plain sight. The footsteps were closer now. William could hear voices speaking in French, his own language, his own countrymen. Brothers of the Order, perhaps, corrupted by promises of power or wealth, or perhaps agents of those who sought to build the Third Temple, wearing stolen Templar surcoats to disguise their true allegiance. William sheathed his sword and pressed his hand against the pattern on the wall. He spoke the words, the 3 syllables that had opened the passage above, but in reverse order. The language felt wrong in his mouth, as if his tongue was not shaped correctly to form these sounds, as if human speech was an inadequate vessel for whatever meaning the words carried. The wall moved, not opening, folding. Reality itself seemed to crease and bend, creating a space where no space should exist, a gap in the world through which William could see, somewhere else. Another chamber, similar but not identical, lit by light that had no visible source, empty, silent, waiting. He did not hesitate, could not afford to. He stepped through the fold in the wall, clutching the pack that held the box, and the world twisted around him in ways that made his stomach rebel, and his eyes water, and his mind scream that this was impossible. That space did not work this way, that he was dreaming, dying, or mad, and then he was through. Standing in the other chamber, whole and intact and impossibly far from where he had been. Behind him, the fold-in space collapsed with a sound like a thunderclap heard underwater. The chamber he now occupied was identical to the one he had left, down to the writing on the walls and the pedestal in the center. But the air tasted different, felt different. And when William climbed the passage that led upward from this chamber, when he emerged into daylight that should not yet have arrived, he found himself not in Acre, but in a place he had never seen before. A monastery, stone buildings arranged around a courtyard, mountains rising in the distance, peaks capped with snow, and standing in the courtyard, as if he had been waiting for William to arrive, a single figure in white robes, an old man, impossibly old, with a face like weathered leather and eyes that held the weight of centuries. He smiled when he saw William, a sad smile full of knowledge and regret. "Brother William of Acre," the old man said in Latin, his voice gentle, "you are late. We expected you 3 days ago." William stared, hand on sword, mind reeling. "Who are you? Where am I? How did you know I was coming?" "I am Brother Sebastian. This is the monastery of the Last Light. And I knew you were coming because I have been waiting for you for 40 years. The old man gestured to the pack William carried. "You bear the vessel, the key to the door that must not be opened. The heart of the secret the Templars have died by the thousands to protect. And now, young brother, now the real work begins." William looked at the pack, at the box within it, at the weight he had inherited without choosing it. What work? Keeping it safe. Not for months or years, but for lifetimes. Not alone, but as part of a chain of guardians that stretches back to Solomon himself, and must extend forward until the stars burn out. You are a keeper now, William, the last of a line, the first of a new one, and what you carry must never ever be allowed to reach Jerusalem again. Why? What is it? What's inside the box? Brother Sebastian's smile faded. His eyes grew dark with something that might have been fear, or might have been awe, or might have been both. A piece of the first temple, the real temple, the one that existed before Solomon, before the flood, before the world was the world as we know it. A fragment of a door that was sealed when God divided light from darkness. And if certain men gather enough pieces, if they perform the correct rituals, if they build the third temple over the place where the first temple stood, that door will open. And what's on the other side? What has always been on the other side? What God sealed away for a reason? What must remain sealed? No matter the cost, no matter the sacrifice, no matter how many keepers must die to ensure it stays that way. Thunder rolled across the mountains, though the sky was clear. The box in William's pack grew warm, then hot, then cold enough to burn. And William understood with terrible certainty that his life as he had known it was over. He would never return to Acre, would never see his homeland again, would spend whatever years remained to him in this place, guarding a secret that kings would kill for and the church would burn to suppress. He was a prisoner now, a willing prisoner, bound by oaths that went deeper than words, by duty that transcended nation or faith or personal desire. He was a keeper, and the burden would never be laid down until death released him, or until someone came to claim what he guarded, and God helped them all when that day arrived. William spent his first night at the monastery of the Last Light, in a cell that felt more like a tomb than a bedroom. The walls were stone, cold and bare, save for a single wooden cross that hung above a narrow bed. No windows, no light except what filtered beneath the heavy door from torches in the corridor beyond. The box sat in the corner, wrapped in its blessed cloth, and even through the fabric William could feel it. A presence, a weight, something aware in ways that objects should not be aware. He did not sleep, could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Brother Thomas's face frozen in betrayal, saw Brother Marcus's ink-stained fingers clutching at a throat that would never speak again, saw young Andrew's mouth open in prayer that had brought no salvation. They had died for this, for the box, for the secret it contained, and now that burden was his alone. When dawn came, Brother Sebastian knocked softly and entered without waiting for response. The old man moved with surprising grace for someone who claimed to have been waiting 40 years for William's arrival. He carried bread, cheese, water, simple fare, monastic fare. "You must eat," Sebastian said, setting the food on the small table. "The body requires sustenance even when the soul is troubled." William forced himself to take bread, to chew, to swallow, though it tasted like ash. "How did you know I was coming? How did you know about the box?" "Because I am a keeper, as you are now a keeper. As 20 men before me were keepers, stretching back through generations to the fall of the first temple itself." Sebastian sat on the edge of the bed, his ancient joints creaking with the movement. "The Templars were not the first to guard this secret, William. They were simply the most recent. Before them were other orders, other brotherhoods, other men who swore oaths and paid prices. You said the box contains a piece of the first temple, the real temple. What does that mean?" Sebastian was quiet for a long moment, his weathered face thoughtful. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of truths that should perhaps remain unspoken. Before Solomon built his temple in Jerusalem, before the Israelites entered Canaan, before Abraham received his covenant, there was another people in that land. Older. We have no name for them now. Their language is lost. Their cities are dust. But they built something in Jerusalem on the rock that would later become the Temple Mount. A structure that was not a temple in the way we understand temples. What was it? A seal, a prison. They discovered something beneath that rock, William. A doorway into spaces that should not be accessible from our world. And through that doorway, things tried to emerge. Things that our minds cannot properly comprehend. That exist in dimensions beyond the three we know. The ancient builders sealed that doorway with rituals and sacrifices and architecture, designed to channel divine power into physical form. They created 12 artifacts, 12 pieces that together formed a lock that could never be opened. William's hand unconsciously moved to the pack containing the box. The vessel. Yes, one of the 12. Each piece is hidden, scattered across the world, guarded by different orders and different faiths. The Templars were given custody of the vessel because of their presence in Jerusalem, their military strength, their absolute discretion. For 2 centuries they have kept it safe. Now that duty falls to you. But why? If the seal was made by ancient builders, if it's already locked, why do we need to guard these pieces? Sebastian's expression grew dark. Because there are those who wish to open the door, who believe that what lies beyond is not horror but salvation. They call themselves the architects. They have existed as long as the keepers have, working in secret, gathering knowledge, seeking the 12 pieces. If they collect them all, if they perform the correct rituals, if they build the 3rd temple over the site of the original seal, they believe they can open the doorway in a controlled manner. They believe they can harness what comes through. Can they? No, they are fools playing with forces they cannot comprehend, but they are dangerous fools, well-funded and patient. They work across generations, passing their knowledge from father to son, from master to apprentice. They corrupted members of your order, William, turned Templars into traitors with promises of power and hidden knowledge. That is why your brothers died. That is why Acre fell. The architects have been planning this for decades. William felt rage building in his chest, hot and sharp. Then we hunt them. We find them and we end this threat. It is not that simple. The architects are everywhere and nowhere. They hide behind legitimate organizations, behind the church itself, behind thrones and trade guilds. To fight them openly is to wage war against the entire structure of Christendom. That is why we do not fight. We hide. We preserve. We wait. Wait for what? For them to fail. For their bloodlines to die out. For their knowledge to be lost or corrupted. For time itself to erode their purpose. Sebastian stood slowly. The architects have been trying to build the 3rd temple for 3,000 years, William. They have failed for 3,000 years. Our task is to ensure they fail for 3,000 more. The old man moved to the door, then paused. There is something else you should know. The monastery is not what it appears. We are not simply monks living in isolation. We are the last repository of forbidden knowledge, the final archive of texts too dangerous to exist anywhere else. In the catacombs beneath this place are scrolls and codices that predate Christianity itself. Maps of the world as it was before the flood. Accounts of civilizations that built wonders we can no longer imagine. And prophecies, so many prophecies. What do they say? That the seal will not hold forever. That eventually, inevitably, the door will open. Not because the architects succeed, but because time itself weakens all things, even divine seals. We have perhaps 1,000 years before the lock begins to fail. Perhaps less, perhaps more. No prophecy is perfectly clear. Then what is the point? Why guard the vessel if the seal will fail anyway? Sebastian smiled sadly. Because 1,000 years gives humanity time. Time to grow stronger. Time to gain knowledge that might help us face what comes when the door finally opens. Time to prepare for an end that is inevitable, but not yet imminent. We do not guard the vessel to prevent the apocalypse, William. We guard it to delay it, to buy time for generations yet unborn. He opened the door. Rest today. Tomorrow, your training begins. You must learn the prayers, the rituals, the words of binding. You must understand what you guard and why. And you must prepare yourself for a life of solitude and vigilance. Because once you become a keeper, you can never leave this place. The knowledge you carry is too dangerous to risk in the world beyond these walls. The door closed. William was alone again with the box and his thoughts. He crossed to the corner where the vessel sat wrapped in cloth. Slowly, reverently, he unwrapped it. The stone box seemed to drink the dim light, creating a pocket of absolute darkness that hurt to look at. He placed his hand on its surface. It was warm. Then possibly warm, as if something inside generated heat, despite being solid stone. And he heard it. Faint, distant, like a voice calling from the bottom of a deep well. Words in a language he did not know, had never heard, would never be able to speak. But somehow, impossibly, he understood their meaning. They were not words of threat or malevolence. They were words of pleading, of desperation, of something trapped that had been trapped for so long it had forgotten what freedom meant. The thing behind the door was not trying to escape. It was begging someone, anyone, to acknowledge its existence, to remember that it was there. William pulled his hand away, heart racing. Brother Sebastian had not told him that, had not mentioned that what they guarded was aware, was conscious, was suffering. Perhaps he did not know. Or perhaps, William thought with cold certainty, perhaps that was knowledge kept from younger keepers. Perhaps that was a truth you learned only after years of guarding the vessel, after decades of feeling that presence pressing against the stone, after centuries of hearing those pleas grow weaker and more desperate. He rewrapped the box carefully and placed it back in the corner. Then he knelt before the wooden cross on the wall and tried to pray, but the words would not come. How could he pray to a God who had sealed something away in eternal darkness? How could he ask for mercy when his entire purpose was to deny mercy to whatever lay behind that door? The questions had no answers. Perhaps they were never meant to have answers. Perhaps that was the true burden of being a keeper. Not the physical guarding of an artifact, but the moral weight of imprisoning something that might not deserve imprisonment. William remained on his knees until his legs went numb. And in the darkness of his cell, the vessel sat silent and patient, containing within its impossible geometry a fragment of a door that must never open, no matter how much what lay beyond it begged. William's training began at dawn the following day. Brother Sebastian led him through corridors that twisted deeper into the mountain, past cells where other monks slept, or prayed or studied in solitude. William counted 12 doors before they reached a spiral staircase that descended into darkness. The air grew colder with each step, damp and heavy with the weight of earth pressing down from above. How many are there? William asked. How many keepers in this monastery? 13, including yourself. Each guards a different piece of knowledge, a different fragment of the truth. Some have been here longer than I have. Brother Augustine arrived 60 years ago and has not spoken a word since. Brother Emmanuel sees visions of futures that may or may not come to pass. Sister Magdalene, yes, we have one woman among us. She reads languages that have been dead for millennia. Sebastian's torch cast dancing shadows on the stone walls. We are not simply guards, William. We are scholars of the apocalypse, students of the end of all things. The stairs ended at a massive iron door covered in symbols, similar to those William had seen in the chamber beneath Acre. Sebastian produced a key, spoke 3 words in that ancient tongue, and the door swung open with a groan that sounded almost alive. Beyond lay the archive. William had seen libraries before. The Templars maintained impressive collections in their fortresses, scrolls and codices copied by dedicated scribes. But this was something else entirely. The chamber stretched impossibly far, its ceiling lost in shadow high above. Shelves lined every wall, rising from floor to darkness, filled with books and scrolls and tablets of clay and stone. Some were bound in leather, some in materials William could not identify, and some seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles, as if they existed in more dimensions than the eye could properly perceive. This is the accumulation of 3,000 years, Sebastian said quietly. Every text too dangerous to exist in the world above, every prophecy too terrible to speak openly, every ritual too powerful to be practiced by mortal men. If the church knew this place existed, they would burn it to ash and salt the earth where it stood. If kings knew, they would wage wars to possess it. That is why we hide, that is why we endure. He led William past shelves labeled in languages both familiar and foreign, Latin, Greek, Arabic, Hebrew, but also older scripts, symbols that predated writing as William understood it. Some sections were chained, locks securing knowledge deemed too dangerous, even for keepers to access freely. They stopped before a particular shelf, where a dozen scrolls lay wrapped in oiled cloth. Sebastian carefully selected one and unrolled it on a reading table. The parchment was ancient, brittle, covered in text that made William's eyes water to read. This is the Testament of Enoch, Sebastian said. Not the book that bears his name in Scripture, but the true account, the one the church suppressed. It tells of the Watchers, angels who descended from heaven and taught mankind forbidden knowledge, the secrets of metalworking, of writing, of medicine and war. But more than that, it tells of what they taught mankind to build. William leaned closer, squinting at the text. He could make out fragments, references to 7 cities built according to divine geometry, 7 seals placed at specific locations across the world, and at the center of it all, Jerusalem, the rock, the door. The Watchers knew what lay beneath that rock, Sebastian continued. They understood that our world is not the only world, that reality is layered like an onion, dimension upon dimension. Most are empty or inhabited by things too alien to acknowledge. But one, the one immediately adjacent to ours, contains something vast, something that has been trying to cross over since before mankind learned to speak. Why? What does it want? That is the great question, is it not? The texts offer different theories. Some say it seeks to devour our world, to consume matter and energy until nothing remains. Others claim it wishes to merge with our reality, to become part of the physical universe. And some, the oldest and strangest texts, suggest that it is not hostile at all, that it is trapped in its dimension just as surely as we work to keep it trapped, that opening the door would be an act of mercy, not madness. William pulled back from the scroll. Do you think we might be the villains in this story? I think we do not have enough knowledge to know whether we are villains or heroes. I think we guard a prison whose occupant may or may not deserve imprisonment. And I think that uncertainty is the heaviest burden a keeper must bear. Sebastian carefully rolled the scroll and returned it to its place. But we guard nonetheless, because the alternative, allowing the architects to open the door without understanding what comes through, is worse than any moral uncertainty. He moved to another section of the archive, this one containing not books but objects, fragments of pottery, corroded metal tools, pieces of stone carved with intricate patterns. Each was labeled, catalogued, preserved behind glass or in sealed containers. These are pieces recovered from archaeological sites, Sebastian explained, remnants of the civilizations that came before. The architects are not the only ones interested in the door, William. Throughout history, various groups have sought it for various reasons. Some wanted power, some wanted knowledge. Some believed opening it would bring divine judgment and the end of a corrupt world. All of them failed, but their attempts left traces, evidence, warnings for those who know how to read them. He stopped before a particular case containing what appeared to be a clay tablet, broken and incomplete. This is from Babylon. It describes an attempt to open the door during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar. They gathered 11 of the 12 pieces, came within a hair's breadth of success, but the vessel, the piece you now guard, was hidden by a Hebrew priest who died rather than reveal its location. Babylon fell shortly after. Some say divine punishment. Others say the attempt to open the door created instabilities that led to the city's collapse. What do you believe? I believe we are dealing with forces that make no distinction between punishment and consequence. The door exists at the intersection of realities. Attempting to force it open creates ripples that spread outward, affecting everything nearby. Cities fall, empires crumble, not because God is angry, but because the fundamental structure of reality in that location becomes unstable. Sebastian's expression was grim. That is why Jerusalem has been destroyed so many times. Why it is called cursed by some, holy by others. It sits atop the door. The energies that radiate from that location affect everything, everyone, warping history in ways both subtle and profound. William felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. Then why do people keep trying to open it? If the cost is so high, why not simply leave it sealed? Because some believe the cost of leaving it sealed is higher. There are prophecies, William. Old ones. They speak of a time when the seal will fail not because someone opens it, but because it has reached the end of its intended duration. The ancient builders created a lock meant to last 10,000 years. We are approaching that limit. In another 1,000 years, perhaps less, the door will begin to open on its own. And when that happens, the choice will not be whether to open or seal. The choice will be whether to face what emerges prepared or unprepared. Then we should prepare, study, learn how to fight whatever comes through. Some of us have spent lifetimes doing exactly that. The results are not encouraging. Sebastian moved to a final section of the archive, this one containing books bound in black leather, their spines unmarked. These are the grimoires, instructions for rituals that might, theoretically, allow control or banishment of what lies beyond the door. Most were written by madmen, some by people who claim to have communed with the thing through dreams or visions. All of them are dangerous to even read, much less attempt to practice. He pulled one volume from the shelf and opened it carefully. The pages were covered in diagrams showing geometric patterns that hurt to look at. accompanied by text in multiple languages, all saying the same thing in different ways. This one claims that the thing beyond the door can be bound if you know its true name. But the name is not something that can be spoken with a human tongue or written with human hands. It exists in frequencies and dimensions we cannot perceive. The author of this grimoire went mad trying to comprehend it. We found his journal. On the last pages, he had written the same phrase over and over until the ink ran out, and he continued in his own blood. It has no name because it is all names. It has no form because it is all forms. We cannot bind what we cannot comprehend. Sebastian closed the book gently. That is the truth we must accept, William. We do not guard the door because we understand what lies beyond it. We guard it because we do not understand. And until we do, until humanity evolves to the point where we can face such things without being destroyed, the door must remain sealed. They spent hours in the archive. Sebastian showed William texts from every age, every civilization that had known about the door. Egyptian papyri, Sumerian tablets, Chinese scrolls, Mayan codices, all of them telling variations of the same story. A threshold, a boundary, a place where reality wore thin and something vast pressed against it from the other side. And all of them agreed on one thing. The 12 pieces must never be gathered. The third temple must never be built. The door must remain locked, no matter the cost. When they finally climbed back to the monastery proper, William's mind reeled with information that seemed too vast to hold. He had seen things that challenged everything he thought he knew about the world, about history, about the nature of reality itself. But one question haunted him above all others. "Brother Sebastian," he said as they reached the upper corridors, "if the door will eventually open on its own, if the seal is failing, then what is the point of what we do? Why guard the vessel if it only delays the inevitable?" The old man was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that transcended words. "Because, William, every year we delay is another year for a child to grow up, for a love to bloom, for a person to live a full life before the end comes. We do not guard the door because we believe we can prevent the apocalypse forever. We guard it to give humanity every possible moment of existence before that day arrives. And if that makes us fools, then we are fools in the service of life itself. There is no higher calling." They reached William's cell. Inside, the vessel sat in its corner, wrapped and waiting. William could feel it even through the door, that presence, that weight. That consciousness trapped in stone and darkness. "Rest," Sebastian said. "Tomorrow we begin the real training, the prayers, the bindings, the words that keep what is locked, locked. Sleep while you can, William. In the years to come, peaceful sleep will be rare." He left. William entered his cell and closed the door. He unwrapped the vessel and placed his hand on its surface, feeling that warmth, hearing those distant pleas. And for the first time, he spoke to it. Not in Latin or French or any language he knew, but in the only language that mattered, the language of compassion. "I hear you," he whispered. "I do not know if you deserve freedom or imprisonment. I do not know if you are victim or threat. But I hear you, and I will remember that you are there. That is all I can offer. It will have to be enough." The pleading stopped. For just a moment, the presence on the other side of the stone seemed to acknowledge his words, and then it retreated, pulled back into whatever space it inhabited, leaving behind only silence. William rewrapped the box and lay on his narrow bed. Sleep did not come easily, but when it did, he dreamed not of doors or temples or apocalypses. He dreamed of a child laughing, a couple embracing, an old man watching the sunset in peace. Every moment delayed was another moment for someone to live. Perhaps Sebastian was right. Perhaps that was enough. 3 months passed in the monastery of the Last Light, and William learned what it meant to be a keeper. The days followed a rhythm as ancient as the stones themselves. Dawn prayers in the chapel, speaking words in languages that predated Latin by millennia. Breakfast in silence, each monk alone with his thoughts and his burden. Then hours in the archive, studying texts that rewrote everything William had believed about history, about faith, about the nature of reality itself. Brother Sebastian was a patient teacher, but a demanding one. He required William to memorize not just the words of binding, but their precise pronunciation, their rhythm, their intent. A single syllable spoken incorrectly could weaken the seals. A pause in the wrong place could create an opening for what lay beyond to press through. Language is not just communication, Sebastian explained one afternoon as they practiced in the archive. It is architecture. When we speak the words of binding, we are not asking God to keep the door closed. We are reinforcing the structure of reality itself at that location. We are adding our will, our consciousness, our existence as another layer to the seal. That is why there must always be keepers, why the words must be spoken daily. The seal is not permanent. It requires constant maintenance. William repeated the phrases until his throat ached, until the sounds became automatic, until he could speak them in his sleep. And each night before sleeping, he would sit with the vessel and speak to the presence within. Not the words of binding, but words of acknowledgement, of witness. He did not know if it understood. He did not know if it cared. But he continued nonetheless, because to treat a conscious thing as merely an object felt like a betrayal of everything he believed about mercy and compassion. On the 93rd day, everything changed. William woke in darkness, his heart pounding, sweat soaking through his rough woolen blanket. He had been dreaming, though the details escaped him like water through fingers. Something about a city, streets of gold and crystal, gardens where flowers sang, and a choice. Someone standing before a door, hand raised, knowing that whatever decision they made would echo across eternity. The vessel in the corner was glowing, not with ordinary light, but with a luminescence that seemed to exist in colors the human eye was not designed to perceive. William rose from his bed and approached slowly, cautiously, the way one might approach a wounded animal that could still bite. The stone box was warm to the touch, almost hot. And through it he could hear something. Not the distant pleading he had grown accustomed to, but voices, many voices, speaking in chorus, in harmony, in desperate urgency. It comes. The gathering begins. The architects move in shadow, 3 pieces found, 4 pieces secured. The convergence approaches. William jerked his hand back, breath coming in gasps. The glow faded. The voices stopped. But his heart continued to race, and his mind struggled to process what he had just heard. He threw on his robes and ran through the dark corridors to Brother Sebastian's cell. The old man was already awake, sitting on the edge of his bed as if he had been waiting. "You heard them," Sebastian said. "Not a question, a statement." "What was that? What's happening?" "The vessel has awakened. It senses that other pieces are being moved, gathered. The architects are accelerating their plans." Sebastian rose stiffly. "Come. We must convene the Council of Keepers immediately." They moved through the monastery, waking the other guardians. Brother Augustine, who had not spoken in 60 years, communicated through gestures rapid and agitated. Brother Emmanuel's eyes were wide with prophetic terror, seeing futures that branched and twisted like roots in dark soil. Sister Magdalene emerged from her cell with a book already open, reading passages in a language that sounded like wind through broken glass. They gathered in the chapel, all 13 keepers standing in a circle around the altar, where a map of the known world had been spread. Sebastian placed markers at various locations across Europe, the Holy Land, North Africa. "The visions come to all the vessels simultaneously," he explained. "Each keeper is receiving the same warning. The architects have found the Chalice of Babylon in the ruins near modern Baghdad. They have secured the Crown of Thorns from a collection in Constantinople. The Seal of Solomon was taken from a vault beneath Rome 3 weeks ago. 3 of the 12, Brother Emmanuel whispered, his voice hoarse from disuse. 3 pieces moving toward convergence. If they gather 6, they can begin the preliminary rituals. If they gather 9, they can break the outer seals. If they gather all 12... He did not finish, he did not need to. Sister Magdalene spoke, her voice clear and strong despite her advanced age. The prophecies speak of this moment. They call it the gathering. It has happened twice before in recorded history. Once in Babylon, when they reached 11 pieces before failing. Once in Atlantis, when they achieved 10 before the city was destroyed by forces they could not control. What stopped them those times? William asked. War, betrayal, divine intervention, depending on which text you consult. But also time. The gathering requires specific astronomical alignments. The door is most accessible during certain planetary configurations that occur only once every 500 years. The last alignment was in the year 891. The next, She consulted her book. The next begins in 18 months. The weight of those words settled over the assembly like a shroud. 18 months, less than 2 years to prevent what had been building for 3,000. What do we do? William's hand went unconsciously to his sword, though he had not worn it in months, old instincts dying hard. We do what we have always done, Sebastian said quietly. We preserve. We hide. We maintain the seals through prayer and vigilance. That is not enough. The voice came from the shadows near the chapel door. A figure stepped forward, tall and gaunt, wearing robes so dark they seemed to absorb light. William had seen this monk before, but never spoken to him. Brother Nathaniel, keeper of the seventh peace, a man who spent his days in solitude and his nights in the deepest parts of the archive, where even other keepers rarely ventured. Brother Nathaniel, Sebastian acknowledged with evident tension, you have been absent from previous councils. Because previous councils spoke only of defense, of hiding, of delay. I come now because delay is no longer sufficient. Nathaniel moved to the map and placed his finger on Jerusalem. The architects are not simply gathering pieces at random. They are following a pattern. Each piece they take brings them geographically and symbolically closer to the Temple Mount. They are creating a pathway of power, a channel through which they can funnel the energies of all 12 pieces once gathered. You seem remarkably well informed about their strategies, Sister Magdalene observed, her tone sharp with suspicion. I have spent 40 years studying their methods, their history, their sacred texts. Know your enemy, Scripture tells us. I know them, and I tell you now, defense alone will fail. We must act. Act how? Sebastian's voice was cold. We are 13 scholars guarding 12 pieces scattered across the known world. They are hundreds, perhaps thousands, operating in secret with resources we cannot match. What action do you propose? Nathaniel smiled, and there was something unsettling in that expression. We give them what they want. Silence fell over the chapel. Every keeper stared at Nathaniel as if he had just blasphemed in the house of God. Explain yourself, Sebastian said slowly, dangerously. The architects seek all 12 pieces. Let them find all 12 pieces. Let them gather them. Let them attempt their ritual. Nathaniel's eyes gleamed with fervor that bordered on madness. But we ensure that when they do, we are there. We infiltrate their ceremony, and at the critical moment we destroy not just the ritual but the pieces themselves. We end the game permanently. The pieces cannot be destroyed, Brother Emmanuel protested. They were made by the ancient builders using methods we no longer understand. They are protected by wards that have survived millennia. Everything can be destroyed given sufficient will and knowledge. I have found texts in the archive, texts describing rituals of unbinding, of unmaking. They require sacrifice, yes, they require costs that are terrible to contemplate. But they would work. William felt ice forming in his stomach. What kind of sacrifice? Nathaniel turned to him, and in that moment, William saw something he had not noticed before. The man's eyes were wrong. Not black like Brother Marcus's had been after touching the door, but wrong in a different way. They reflected light strangely, showing colors that should not exist in the human iris. The kind that exchanges one prison for another, Nathaniel said softly. The pieces were made to contain and channel energies from beyond our dimension. To destroy them, those energies must go somewhere. They must be absorbed, contained, housed in a new vessel. A living vessel. 13 living vessels to be precise. One for each keeper. Horror rippled through the assembly. Sister Magdalene made the sign of the cross. Brother Emmanuel actually recoiled. Even Sebastian, who had seemed unshakable, paled. Do you propose we become the new prison? Sebastian whispered. That we take into ourselves what we have guarded against for lifetimes. I propose we end the threat forever, at whatever cost necessary. We are keepers. We swore oaths to protect humanity from what lies beyond the door. If those oaths require us to become living seals, living sacrifices, then so be it. Better 13 damned souls than an entire world consumed. William found his voice. Though it shook with emotion he could barely contain. There must be another way. We cannot simply volunteer for eternal torment, based on theories found in forbidden texts. Can we not? Tell me, Brother William, what did you think being a keeper meant? Did you imagine you would study dusty scrolls and speak ancient prayers, and then die peacefully in your sleep? We are already damned. We carry knowledge that isolates us from all human fellowship. We tend a prison whose occupant pleads for freedom. We delay an apocalypse we know we cannot prevent. Our damnation was assured the moment we took up this burden. I simply propose we make that damnation meaningful. Sebastian moved between Nathaniel and the other keepers, his aged frame suddenly radiating authority that transcended physical strength. We will not make such a decision tonight. We will not make it in haste or fear. We will research, we will pray. We will seek guidance from the texts and from whatever divine power still watches over this broken world. But we will not sacrifice ourselves based on the fevered theories of one man, no matter how learned. Nathaniel's expression darkened. Then you condemn us to failure. The architects will gather the pieces. They will perform the ritual, and the door will open because we were too cowardly to do what necessity demanded. Perhaps. Or perhaps another path will reveal itself. Perhaps the answer lies not in becoming the prison, but in understanding what we imprison, in learning why it seeks freedom so desperately. Sebastian's eyes found William. Our youngest keeper has done something none of us have done in generations. He speaks to the vessel. He treats what is sealed within as if it has thoughts, feelings, agency. Perhaps that is the path we have been too afraid to walk. All eyes turned to William. He felt the weight of their attention, their hope, their desperation. And he felt something else, the vessel in his cell, distant but present, aware that they spoke of it, aware that for the first time in millennia, its keepers were considering the possibility that it might be something other than a threat to be contained. I do not know what it is, William said carefully. I do not know if it is prisoner or monster, or something we lack the wisdom to categorize, but I know it is aware. I know it suffers. And I know that treating consciousness as mere object to be locked away, that treating suffering as acceptable collateral in our protection of humanity, that makes us no better than those who would open the door for their own selfish ends. The chapel fell silent, the candles flickered, and somewhere beyond the walls, beyond the mountains, beyond the world itself, the thing behind the door pressed closer, listening to the debate about its fate, waiting to see if these latest keepers would prove different from all those who had come before, waiting to see if mercy would finally triumph over fear, or if fear would win again as it always had. They were not the simple fanatics he had expected. Many were brilliant scholars, devout in their own way, genuinely believing they served a higher purpose. They prayed before beginning their work each day. They debated ethics and theology with sophistication that would have impressed the finest minds in any monastery. They spoke of the door not as gateway to destruction, but as threshold to reunion with the divine. It would have been easier if they were monsters. Easier to maintain his resolve, his certainty that what he did was righteous. But they were men, flawed, misguided perhaps, but men nonetheless. Men who believed they were saving the world rather than ending it. Marcus took particular interest in William's progress, assigning him increasingly sensitive documents to translate. Ancient texts describing the rituals necessary to activate each of the 12 pieces. Astronomical charts calculating the precise moment when the planetary alignment would reach its apex. Architectural plans showing not just the physical structure of the third temple, but the geometric patterns that would channel energies from each artifact into a unified whole. "I have a gift," Marcus said one evening as they worked late in the main chamber. "Most scholars see only the surface meaning of these texts. You understand the layers beneath. The symbolic architecture, the mathematical precision hidden in poetic language." William looked up from the scroll he was examining, careful to keep his expression neutral. "I was trained by monks who believed that scripture contained multiple truths, depending on the depth of one's reading. The monks are not entirely wrong, though they apply their insight too narrowly. They seek God in their texts. We seek the mechanism by which God touches creation. We seek to understand not just what the divine is, but how it operates within the constraints of physical reality." Marcus moved to the model of the third temple, his fingers tracing the intricate design. "Do you know what the temple truly was, Thomas? Not the political structure, the center of Hebrew worship, but its actual function? Enlighten me." It was an engine, a device for concentrating human consciousness and directing it toward specific dimensional frequencies. When the priests performed their rituals, when the people gathered for festivals, when sacrifices were made and prayers spoken, they were not simply honoring God. They were generating power, spiritual energy that the temple's architecture focused like a lens focuses light. And that focused energy thinned the barrier between our dimension and the realm beyond. William felt cold settle into his bones. To what purpose? To maintain contact with the divine, to ensure that God remained present in the world rather than distant and abstract. But the second temple was imperfect. Built according to corrupted plans after the Babylonian exile destroyed the original specifications. It functioned, but poorly. The connection was unstable. That is why it was destroyed. The divine could not sustain manifestation through such a flawed conduit. And the third temple? You believe it will be different? We know it will be different, because we have the original plans, the actual designs given to Moses on Sinai, preserved in fragments across a dozen cultures under a dozen different names. When we build according to those specifications, when we activate the 12 pieces in proper alignment, the temple will function as it was always meant to. The barrier will not simply thin, it will open. And what has been separated since the beginning will be reunited. The passion in Marcus's voice was undeniable. He was not driven by madness or malice, but by faith. Absolute, unshakable faith that what he did was holy work. William chose his words carefully. And what of those who do not wish to be reunited? What of those who prefer the separation? Marcus's expression hardened. They are children afraid of growing up. Infants clinging to the womb when the time for birth has come. Transformation is always frightening to those who experience it. But once complete, once the union is achieved, there will be no more fear, no more doubt, no more suffering. All consciousness will be one consciousness, experiencing existence as it was meant to be experienced, unified, whole, perfect, at the cost of individuality. Individuality is the disease, not the cure. It creates separation, loneliness, conflict. Every war, every murder, every act of cruelty stems from the illusion that we are separate beings with separate interests. Remove that illusion. Restore the unity that existed before the fall. And paradise returns not as distant promise, but as present reality. William returned his attention to the scroll, unwilling to let Marcus see the horror in his eyes, because he understood now, fully and terribly, what the architects truly sought. Not just to open the door, but to undo creation itself. To reverse the process by which individual souls had emerged from primordial unity. To return humanity to a state of collective consciousness where personal will, personal choice, personal existence had no meaning. They called it salvation. William recognized it as extinction dressed in theological language. That night, William knew he could delay no longer. He had learned enough. The architects had 7 pieces now, including the vessel they did not know William carried with him each night. They planned to attempt the ritual in 4 months, when a preliminary alignment would allow them to test their procedures. If that test succeeded, they would move forward with the full ceremony at the proper alignment. He had to return to the monastery, had to warn the other keepers, had to find some way to stop this that did not require Brother Nathaniel's apocalyptic solution of becoming living prisons themselves. William waited until the compound was quiet. The scholars departed to their homes or sleeping quarters. He gathered his few possessions, concealed the vessel in his pack, and moved toward the exit he had identified weeks ago as the least monitored. He was 10 paces from freedom when a voice stopped him. "Leaving so soon, Brother William?" William turned slowly. Brother Nathaniel stood in the shadows, still wearing the dark robes he had worn at the monastery, his unsettling eyes reflecting torchlight in colors that should not exist. "You? How did you find me?" "I followed you from the monastery, have been watching you since you arrived, watching you integrate yourself into the architects, gain their trust, learn their secrets." Nathaniel stepped forward into the light, watching you hesitate. "I am returning to report, to share what I have learned." "Are you? Or were you considering another option? Perhaps warning the architects that a spy has infiltrated them, perhaps offering to help them locate the other pieces, including the ones hidden by keepers who would never voluntarily surrender their charges." William's hand moved to where his sword was not. "You think I would betray the order, betray everything we stand for? I think you have spent 6 weeks listening to Marcus's philosophies, hearing him describe transformation as salvation rather than destruction, and I think a part of you wonders if he might be right. if perhaps the keepers have been wrong for 3,000 years, if perhaps opening the door truly is mercy rather than madness. The accusation stung because it held a fragment of truth. William had found himself questioning, doubting, seeing nuance where he had been trained to see only binary opposition between right and wrong. What do you want, Nathaniel? I want you to make a choice right now, irrevocably. Nathaniel produced a dagger from his robes. Not an ornate ceremonial blade, but a simple, efficient tool for killing. You can return to the monastery and report what you have learned. Help us formulate a defensive strategy that will almost certainly fail. Watch as the architects gather the remaining pieces and attempt their ritual. Hope that somehow, impossibly, we find a solution that prevents both apocalypse and damnation. Or you help me end this tonight. We return to the vault. We destroy the 3 pieces they have gathered. We kill Marcus and the senior architects before they can pass their knowledge to successors. We break this organization permanently, violently, immediately. We become murderers in the service of preservation. We damn our own souls to save the world. William stared at the dagger, at the man offering it, at the choice that was not really a choice at all. You want me to become an assassin? To abandon everything I was taught about mercy and redemption? I want you to be a keeper, to do what is necessary rather than what is comfortable. The Templars understood this once. They killed when killing was required. They made hard choices in service of harder truths, but somewhere along the way we became scholars instead of warriors. We forgot that some evils cannot be reasoned with or reformed. They must be cut out like cancer. If I refuse, then I will do it alone, and I will report to Brother Sebastian that you were compromised, that you had gone native, as they say, that you could not be trusted to maintain your loyalty under extended exposure to the architect's philosophies. You will be removed as keeper. The vessel will be given to another, and you will spend the rest of your life in a cell wondering if you made the right choice. William felt rage building, hot and sharp. You have no authority to make such judgments. I have the authority granted by 3,000 years of precedent. Every keeper has the right to remove another keeper if that keeper's integrity is compromised. It is written in our founding texts. It is the ultimate check against the corruption that comes from spending too long staring into the abyss. The dagger glinted in torchlight. William looked at it, at Nathaniel, at the compound beyond where men slept who believed they were doing God's work. Misguided men, dangerous men, but men nonetheless. Could he kill them? Could he become executioner based on his own judgment of their worthiness to live? Could he take upon himself the role of divine justice, deciding who deserved death and who deserved mercy? And if he refused, if he walked away, would he be choosing compassion or cowardice, wisdom or weakness? The line between them had never seemed more blurred. But there is another way, William said slowly. We do not kill them. We steal the pieces. We remove them from the vault and scatter them so thoroughly that the architects could never gather them again. We cripple their organization without becoming murderers. Nathaniel's smile was cold. And how do you propose we steal objects from a vault that requires 3 keys turned simultaneously? Do you think Marcus carries his key casually? Do you imagine we can simply walk in and take what we please? No. But I know where Marcus keeps his key. I know the routines of the guards. I know which scholars have copies of the vault keys for emergency access. 6 weeks of observation have given me knowledge you do not possess. We can do this without bloodshed. And when the architects discover the theft, when they realize someone has penetrated their security and stolen their most precious artifacts, they will hunt us. They will find the monastery. They will kill every keeper and take every piece. Your mercy will damn us all. Then we do not lead them back to the monastery. We hide the pieces somewhere else, somewhere they cannot find, somewhere no one can find. We bury them so deeply that they become legend rather than reality. We end the game without ending lives. Nathaniel studied William for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried grudging respect. You are either the wisest man I have met or the greatest fool. Very well. We will attempt your plan. But if it fails, if we are discovered, if bloodshed becomes necessary to escape, you will not hesitate. You will do what must be done. Agreed. William nodded, though the motion felt like signing away a part of his soul. Agreed. They spent the next hour preparing. William retrieved the duplicate keys he had discovered during his time in the compound. Keys that scholars kept in case of emergency. hidden in locations they thought secure. Nathaniel proved surprisingly adept at moving through shadows, at avoiding detection, at picking locks when keys were insufficient. They reached the vault entrance at the darkest part of night, when even the most dedicated scholars had succumbed to sleep. 3 locks, 3 keys, they had only 2. The third is in Marcus's quarters, William whispered. We cannot access it without waking him. Nathaniel examined the lock with fingers that moved with unnatural precision. After a moment, he smiled. We do not need his key, we need only to convince the lock that we have turned it. Watch. He placed his hand flat against the lock mechanism and spoke words in that ancient language William had learned to speak, but never to understand. The lock resisted at first. Then, impossibly, it clicked open as if a key had been turned from within. How did you do that? I have spent 40 years in the deepest parts of the archive. I have read texts that would shatter minds less prepared than mine. I have learned things the other keepers dare not know. Open the vault, William, before I lose my courage for what we attempt. The vault door swung open silently. Inside, the 3 pieces sat on their pedestals, glowing faintly in the darkness. The chalice, the crown, the seal. Objects of power that had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. William approached the chalice first. When he touched it, sensation flooded through him, not painful, but overwhelming. Memories that were not his memories, lives that were not his life, the accumulated weight of everyone who had ever touched this artifact. Their hopes and fears and dreams pressed into consciousness like wine pressed from grapes. He lifted it carefully and wrapped it in cloth. Nathaniel took the crown, his face pale with effort. The seal required both of them to lift, its weight far exceeding what stone should weigh. They had just secured all 3 pieces in their packs when light blazed behind them. Marcus stood in the vault entrance, holding a torch in one hand and a sword in the other. Behind him, a dozen architects emerged from shadow, armed and armored, having been waiting in ambush. Did you think we would not notice? Marcus's voice was calm, almost sad. Did you think we would allow a Templar spy to move freely through our organization without observation? We have known since the day you arrived, William of Saint-Omer. We have watched you gather intelligence. We have fed you truths mixed with lies to measure your reaction. And we have waited for this moment when you would reveal yourself completely. William's hand moved to his belt, but he had no weapon. Had come unarmed specifically to avoid bloodshed. That decision now seemed catastrophically naive. Why wait? William demanded. Why not simply kill me when you discovered my identity? Because we needed to know who sent you, where the other pieces are hidden, how many keepers remain. You have given us all of that through your questions, your interests, your careful inquiries. Marcus stepped forward, his sword steady. And because I hoped, even against evidence, that you might be convinced, that you might see the truth of what we offer and join us willingly. But you are too trapped in old paradigms, too committed to the lie that separation is preferable to unity. Nathaniel moved before William could react, his hand shooting out to touch the nearest architect. The man convulsed and fell, black eyes rolling back as something flowed out of Nathaniel into his victim. The other architects recoiled, fear replacing confidence. What are you? Marcus breathed. I am what happens when a keeper stares too long into the abyss, when he reads texts that should never be read, when he learns to channel the very forces we are meant to contain. Nathaniel's voice had changed, taking on harmonics that suggested multiple consciousnesses speaking through a single throat. I am the weapon the Order made when they realized defense alone would not suffice, and I have come to end your heresy permanently. He moved with inhuman speed, touching 2 more architects who fell screaming. Marcus swung his sword, but Nathaniel caught the blade with his bare hand, unbothered by the cut that opened his palm. William, Nathaniel said calmly, take the pieces, run. I will hold them here. I will not leave you to die. I am already dead, have been dead since the day I took this power into myself. All I have left is choosing how I spend my death. Let it mean something. Let it buy you time to escape with what we came for. William grabbed the packs containing the 3 pieces. He ran, hearing behind him the sounds of combat, of men screaming, of Nathaniel laughing with voices that were not entirely human. He did not look back. He ran through the compound, through the streets of Jerusalem, through the gates that should have been guarded, but were mysteriously open. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs threatened to collapse beneath him. And only when dawn began to lighten the eastern sky did he stop, realizing with terrible certainty what Nathaniel's sacrifice had truly cost. Not just his life, but his soul. The man had become the very thing they fought against, had channeled the power from beyond the door into himself, had transformed into a living breach in reality. To save the world, he had become its greatest threat. William looked at the packs containing the 3 pieces, 3 fragments of the lock, 3 steps closer to preventing the door from opening. But at what price? And would that price in the end prove higher than simply letting the door open? The questions followed him into the wilderness, unanswered and unanswerable. William reached the monastery of the Last Light 3 weeks after fleeing Jerusalem, half-starved, fever-racked, carrying 3 stolen pieces of the lock and the weight of Nathaniel's sacrifice. Brother Sebastian met him at the gate, his ancient face grave with knowledge of what had transpired. We felt it, the moment Nathaniel transformed, the moment he channeled that, which should never be channeled. Every keeper across the world felt reality tear as he became living breach. William stumbled into the courtyard and fell to his knees, the packs containing the artifacts sliding from his shoulders. He saved me. He became monster to remain guardian. I do not know if that makes him martyr or damned. Perhaps both, perhaps neither. Come, the council waits. They gathered in the chapel, the remaining 12 keepers standing in circle around the 3 recovered pieces, now displayed on the altar. The chalice, the crown, the seal. Objects of impossible age radiating presence that made the air itself feel thick and resistant. Sister Magdalene spoke first, her voice carrying authority that transcended her physical frailty. 3 pieces recovered, 3 fewer in the architect's possession. But at what cost? Nathaniel is lost, transformed into the very thing we oppose. The architects know our methods, our location, our weaknesses, and they now have reason to accelerate their plans rather than proceed with patience. There is worse news, Brother Emmanuel added, his prophetic eyes distant. I have seen what comes. The architects will not wait for the full alignment. They will attempt the ritual with the pieces they possess in 3 months' time. 9 pieces, not the full 12, but enough to create partial opening. Enough to begin the process of bringing through what lies beyond. William forced himself to stand, despite exhaustion that went deeper than physical. Can they succeed with only 9 pieces? The ritual requires all 12 for full manifestation, but 9 creates instability, a crack rather than doorway. And through that crack, fragments can seep. Not the whole of what waits beyond, but pieces of it, enough to begin the transformation they seek, but uncontrolled, chaotic. The result will not be transcendent unity, but madness given form. Brother Sebastian moved to the map still spread across the altar, marking locations across the known world. Then we have 3 months. 3 months to locate the remaining 3 pieces the architects need. 3 months to hide them so thoroughly they cannot be found. 3 months to prepare for what comes if we fail. Or, a voice said from the shadows, 3 months to do what should have been done from the beginning. A figure emerged into candlelight, and William's breath caught. Brother Nathaniel stood before them, alive but utterly changed. His eyes were now completely black, like holes cut into reality itself. His skin had taken on a translucent quality, as if he was becoming less solid, less real. And around him, the air rippled with energies that hurt to perceive. You survived, Sebastian breathed. Survived is perhaps too generous a word. I persist. I function. But I am no longer entirely what I was. The power I channeled has taken root, grown, transformed me into something between keeper and threshold. Nathaniel's voice carried harmonics that suggested multiple entities speaking through single throat. I have become what the ancient texts describe as the living seal, a consciousness that bridges dimensions, and I can feel it now. Feel what waits beyond the door, feel its thoughts, its desires, its terrible, lonely yearning. He moved to the 3 recovered pieces, his hand hovering over them without touching. These call to the others. They are fragments of a whole that seeks to reunite. The architects understand this on intellectual level, but I feel it. The pieces want to come together. They were never meant to be separated. Every moment they remain apart is agony to them. Then we have condemned them to eternal suffering, William said quietly, made prisons of objects that have their own form of consciousness. Yes, just as we have imprisoned what lies beyond the door. Just as we have caged and contained and suppressed for 3,000 years, always believing we were righteous in our jailer's role. Nathaniel turned to face the council, his black eyes reflecting candles in colors that should not exist. I have crossed the threshold and returned. I have touched what you only theorize about. And I tell you now, the keepers have been wrong, not in believing the door is dangerous, but in believing it must remain forever sealed. Sister Magdalene made the sign of the cross. You have been corrupted. The power has poisoned your mind, or it has clarified my vision, removed the limitations that prevented me from seeing truth. Nathaniel's expression was serene, almost beatific. The thing beyond the door does not seek to destroy us. It seeks to complete us. We are fragments, separated from the whole at the moment of creation when unity became diversity. Opening the door does not bring invasion. It brings reunion, return to source. The end of suffering that comes from illusion of separation. At the cost of everything we are, William countered. At the price of individual consciousness, individual will, individual existence. You describe extinction as if it were homecoming. Because it is both. Death is always both ending and beginning. The seed must die for the tree to grow. The child must die for the adult to emerge. We cling to our separate existence as if it were precious, but it is the source of all pain. Every war, every betrayal, every moment of loneliness or fear or grief stems from belief that we are isolated beings in hostile universe. Remove that illusion, and paradise remains. Brother Sebastian stepped forward, his aged frame radiating authority. You speak with the voice of what you have touched. You are mouthpiece for the thing beyond, whether you realize it or not. That does not make you prophet. It makes you victim of the most insidious form of corruption. You have been convinced that your colonization is liberation. Nathaniel's laugh echoed strangely in the stone chapel. Or you are so invested in your role as guardian that you cannot imagine any alternative to eternal imprisonment. Tell me, Sebastian, what gives us the right to decide for all humanity whether transformation is preferable to stagnation? What makes our judgment superior to that of those who have actually touched the divine? The divine does not need to be touched. It is here, present, manifest in every moment of grace and compassion and selfless love. What you touched is not God, but something that wears divinity as disguise. Sebastian's voice softened. Come back to us, Nathaniel. Fight whatever has taken root in your consciousness. You are still keeper beneath the corruption. You can still choose to serve humanity rather than the thing that has claimed you. For a moment, something flickered in Nathaniel's black eyes. Something that might have been doubt, or might have been the last fragment of the man he had been. But then it faded, replaced by serene certainty more frightening than any rage. I am done fighting. I have spent 40 years fighting, studying, preparing for war against forces I did not understand. Now I understand. Now I have touched truth that transcends human philosophy, and I choose to serve not humanity's fear, but humanity's potential. He turned to leave, then paused at the chapel door. The architects will attempt their ritual in 3 months. I will be there. I will help them succeed, not because I serve them, but because I serve what comes after them, what comes after all of us. Then we will stop you, Sebastian said, whatever it costs, whatever we must become. Nathaniel smiled sadly. You already know what it costs, what you must become, the same thing I have become, living seals, bridges between dimensions, 13 keepers channeling the power meant to flow through 12 pieces. It is the only way to counter what I have become, the only way to stand against partial opening of the door. He vanished, not walking away but simply ceasing to be present as if he had never been there at all. The council stood in silence, processing what they had witnessed, what they had been told, what they had been challenged to become. Finally, William spoke. He is right, about the cost, about what we must do. We cannot fight the architects with conventional means. We cannot prevent the ritual through strategy or force. We can only counter power with power, become living seals as he has become living breach. It will destroy us, Sister Magdalene whispered, transform us into things that are no longer entirely human. We will persist perhaps, but what we are will be gone. Then we will be martyrs in the truest sense, Brother Emmanuel said, his prophetic voice carrying terrible certainty. We will die so that others may live unchanged. We will sacrifice our humanity so that humanity itself endures. It is the choice the vessel makes, the choice we ask of others while exempting ourselves. Perhaps it is time we bore that burden personally. Brother Sebastian looked at each keeper in turn, reading in their faces the same resigned determination. They had known, perhaps from the moment they took their oaths, that it might come to this. That preservation of the world might require destruction of those who preserved it. Then we have 3 months to prepare, he said quietly. 3 months to master rituals that will transform us. 3 months to say whatever farewells we can to the men and women we will cease to be. 3 months before we face the architects at their ritual and become either saviors or cautionary tales about the dangers of fighting monsters. William looked at the 3 recovered pieces on the altar, feeling their pull, their desire to reunite with the others. And he felt the vessel in his cell, that 4th piece, adding its voice to the chorus of longing. They were all prisons, the pieces, the keepers, the thing beyond the door, all imprisoned by roles they had not chosen, by duties they could not escape, by a cosmic drama 3,000 years old that demanded sacrifice without end. And in 3 months that drama would reach its climax. One way or another, the story that began when the first builders sealed the door would finally find its ending. Whether that ending brought salvation or damnation remained to be seen, but it would be an ending. After 3,000 years of delay, of watching, of waiting, the time for final choice had come. The keepers departed the chapel one by one, each returning to their cells to prepare for transformation. William remained alone with the artifacts, speaking to them as he had spoken to the vessel. I do not know if what we do is right. I know only that we do it with full consciousness of the cost. We choose to become prisons so that others need not. We choose to suffer so that others might live free of this burden. If that makes us fools, then we are fools who die with eyes open and hearts committed. It will have to be enough. The artifacts pulsed once in response, and William imagined he could feel something like gratitude from them. Or perhaps it was just his own need for meaning, for purpose, for the comfort of believing that sacrifice always redeems. He left the chapel as dawn broke over the mountains. 3 months until the ritual. 3 months until transformation. 3 months until the door opened or remained sealed. 3 months until the keeper's oath was fulfilled or broken forever.